Peace and blessings, family. Brother Shareef with the Hour of Power and the Black Love Movement. Go to Hour of Power, Shareef Hamid on YouTube. Subscribe and share the channel so we can continue to lift the mind, body, and soul of our people. As always, in the name of God, the gracious, the merciful, we give him praise and thanks for his mercy and his goodness to the human family. If all the trees upon the earth were pens to write with, and if all the oceans were ink, and then another 7 oceans to add to its supply, the writing would still not be enough to explain the glory of God, for he's the exalted, all-powerful, all-wise. We confide in no other in our time of need, and we praise no other in our good fortune. He is one. And even if I lived to be 1,000, it would still not be enough to thank God for his many blessings and gifts. This is Brother Shareef with the Hour of Power. Go to Hour of Power, Shareef Hamid on YouTube. Subscribe and share the channel so we can continue to lift the mind, body, and soul of our people. As always, we thank everyone for tuning in and supporting the Hour of Power and the Black Love Movement. Your participation is greatly appreciated. I just can't thank everyone enough for supporting what we do. Keep in mind that even though you may just see me sometimes, I have a lot of help and support to make this thing go. So before we get into this deep topic tonight, hopefully we get more people to log on. If not, it's not about the numbers. It's about the information that is put out and the effect that it has on the people. So despite who tunes in, it will be on replay, and for those who do tune in live, all I ask is that that you share the message, so those who can't tune in live, they can get the message, and we can get this message out to as many people as possible, because we believe that the information is very much needed, and it can have an impact, if not save the lives of those who view it. That's how much we believe in this message. We believe that not only can it impact the lives of those who view it, it could possibly save someone's life. That's how much we believe in this message. Now, this Saturday coming up, October the 20th, we are going to have a historic community field trip. I said a historic community field trip. Listen to this. Saturday, October the 20th at 11 a.m., well, really 10:30 to 10:45 a.m., those who participate, we're asking those to show up at Penn Park between the hours of 10:30 and 10:45, particularly the youth and community members. If you want to go, show up at Penn Park between 10:30 and 10:45, Saturday, October the 20th, and 11 a.m. sharp. We are going to leave from Penn Park and go to the Blacks and Wax Museum. We're going to go to the Blacks and Wax Museum, which is at 1601 East North Avenue in Baltimore. It is going to be an absolute historic and mind-blowing and life-changing experience. That's the Blacks and Wax Museum on Saturday, October the 20th. We're going to leave at 11 a.m. sharp. We are working on the transportation, but right now we're going to mark it down as if we're going to do it the old school way and carpool. But we have some resources that we're working on, so at the least we can get maybe a 15-passenger van, if not more. We're working on it. We got some beautiful people in the community that's trying to make this happen. But at the worst, we're going to carpool and go down. We got local youth in the community that's going to participate. They live right there in Penn Park, but anyone is welcome to go. So at 11 a.m. sharp, Saturday, October the 20th, we're going to depart from Penn Park, and we're going to head down to 1601 East North Avenue to the Blacks and Wax Museum. It's going to be an absolute historic and beautiful experience. I've been to the museum years ago when I used to live in North Carolina, and I used to be the Black History instructor for the Rites of Passage, which is a program down there at North Carolina Central University in Durham, and we took teenage boys down there. It was all boys, but this is open to boys, females, elders, whatever. And we took them there, but now they have renovated the museum, so I know it's 5 times better now. Still in the same location, but they have renovated it. And these wax figures, it looks like you're standing in front of human beings. That's how real it is. They have parts there where they have slave ships that we were actually put on. They have the lynching part. I have shown books and pictures of actual lynchings in America, with the books called Without Sanctuary, 100 Years of Lynching. Well, it's going to be in person, so that's a little graphic, but it's the truth. So again, anyone in the community is welcome to go. That's the historic field trip, community field trip to the Blacks and Wax Museum, Saturday, October the 20th. Try to be there between the hours of 10:30 and 10:45 so we know who's going. We're working on a bus. We're working on a van. If not, we will carpool. And at 11 a.m., we're going to pull out with the youth. Now, here's the cost. It's always a cost, right? Adults, the admission price is $15. For the youth, between the ages of 12 and 17, it's $14. For youth, which will mostly be this age range, between the ages of 3 and 11, it's $12, right? If we can get a group discount, it's $10.50, but I'm having a little issue with that because I don't know exactly who's going. So far, I can sponsor at least 10 youth and 2 adults. 10 youth and 2 adults I have sponsors for, and I'm looking for donations all this week so we can sponsor more youth and possibly more adults. So again, the prices are, for adults it's $15 for admission. For youth between the ages of 12 and 17, it's $14. For youth between the ages of 3 and 11, it's $12. If we can get a group discount, which I'm having a little issue with, but it's okay. It's $10.50. So we're just going to count on the price at the door. So far, I have funding to sponsor at least 10 youth and 2 adults. And salute to those who have donated so far to the Hour of Power and the Black Love Movement historic trip to the Blacks and Wax Museum. Salute to my brother Jermaine Bailey with his bike club 0 to 100. He has donated. Salute to our sister Ophelia Chambliss. She has donated. Salute to Marissa Shockley with the Yaya Girls. She has donated. I got a donation from Sister Rhonda Greer with Make Me Over. She has donated. I hope I didn't miss anyone, but those are my donors so far. Our sister April Collier with Cornbread West, she said that she will help with food. We got to feed these children. She said she will help us out with food and snacks. And even if something happens that she doesn't donate, her heart is in the right place. And salute to all those who wanted to donate, but for some reason may have not been able to donate. So that is what's going on with our historic trip to the Blacks and Wax Museum. If you want to donate, we still got all this week to go, up from tomorrow up until Friday. That's what we have. So if you want to donate, inbox me on Facebook. You can call me at 919-265-4119 if you want to donate to this worthy cause of taking the youth around the way, and anyone is welcome to go to the Blacks and Wax Museum. Again, October the 20th. Try to arrive at Penn Park between the hours of 10:30 and 10:45, and at 11 a.m. we heading out and we working on possibly getting a van or a bus to go down so we don't have so many cars going down. But at the worst, we'll just carpool. The Hour of Power and the Black Love Movement, we are about unity. One of my teachers, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, said, our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. He said, our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. So I'm saying that it's more things going on than the historic trip to the Blacks and Wax Museum, even though I think it's powerful and it's going to be life-changing, especially for the youth that don't get to leave that area other than going to school, which is right around the corner at McKinley School, we believe that our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. That same day at 5 p.m. at St. Matt's, our wonderful and powerful group called The Movement, led by Brother Anu Banks, Sister Tanya Larry, and Ray, and Brother Fred, they are having a no bullying seminar at St. Matt's Church. St. Matt's, I forgot to get the exact address of St. Matt's, but St. Matt's is out there on Market Street before you get to Richland Avenue. They are having a no bullying seminar from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. If I get back in time and as long as my family is straight, I'm going to try to make it, even though I know I'm going to be busy with that field trip, because we don't know the exact time when we get back. We don't know what traffic is going to be like. But I encourage those who can't go to the historic trip to the Blacks and Wax Museum, attend that seminar, which is at St. Matt's Church from 5 to 7 p.m. And that is going to be sponsored by The Movement with Sister Tanya Larry, Brother Anu, Brother Fred, and Brother Ray. Okay? That's a very serious thing going on. It isn't as serious until it hits your front door, or your child or your nephew or grandchild is being bullied. That is not a fun feeling to have, to be bullied. So salute to Sister Tanya, Brother New, Brother Fred, and Brother Ray for sponsoring and putting on this much needed event, which they will be talking about and having a seminar on bullying. I did plenty sessions on bullying when I was in North Carolina. It's a very serious issue. Also, for sisters in this area, then we're going to get into our topic. For sisters in this area, I want you to look at or at least consider getting this book by my wife. It's called An Apple a Day by Lady Hamid. She has a website called ladyhamid.com. She has a book, a 30-day devotional book called An Apple a Day. And along with that book, she also has Walking in My Identity. Walking in My Identity. Two powerful books, especially for women. So you can go to Lady Hamid on Facebook or ladyhamid.com. She has her own website. So again, An Apple a Day, a 30-day devotional. Very good book for women. And along with that, you can also get Walking in My Identity, specifically for women. Okay? So look that up. Very good books to get, especially for women. Now, what y'all all been waiting for. Analysis, a breakdown, in a different perspective of Kanye West's historic or epic visit to the White House. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. I'm not really going to say much about it because it's really not much to say in the light of what people are thinking. It's obviously something going on with our brother. It's something wrong with this brother, especially since he has lost his mother. Kanye West has lost his way. There's no doubt about that. It's really not up for conversation. We know something is going on with the brother. I have noticed it. You don't have to be no therapist. You don't have to be no counselor. You don't have to be no psychologist to know that something is going on and something is driven our brother to the left big time. I work in mental health. I work with youth. I work with adults. I'm a counselor. I'm a therapist. I've worked with youth and done mentoring for years. So I know something is going on with the brother. I know something is wrong with him. It's nothing to laugh about. It's nothing to make fun of. I mean, something is wrong with him. Something is seriously wrong with this young brother. And if you remember back in May, he had an issue where he had a big time thing that was in the media where he said that slavery was a choice, and that went all viral. Obviously, slavery isn't a choice. and it really upset a lot of people. And this visit to the White House the other day with Donald Trump, 45 as some people call him, has really gotten people shaken up. Some people said they couldn't even bring themselves to even watch that visit. But something is wrong with him. And just my experience with being in mental health and having the ability to even diagnose some people with mental disorders. If I had to diagnose him with something, I want you to pay attention to this, but I want to give a different perspective on that visit to the White House. I want to give a different perspective than what a lot of people are doing. If I had to diagnose him with something, I would diagnose him with what you call a delusional disorder. A delusional disorder. And I'm going to give you the definition of that. And you tell me if it matches up, depending on whether you have experience in counseling, mental health, or whatever. My sister Samia says bipolar depression. Yeah, I think he's been diagnosed with that. And my sister Jackie, thank you for tuning in. She said he's mentally disturbed and his loved ones and his wife needs to cover him. Yes, they do. I would diagnose him with a delusional disorder. And again, I do this for a living. I'm not making this up. This isn't my opinion. A delusional disorder, previously called psychosis, probably heard that before. It's a serious mental disorder which a person cannot tell. Listen to this. A person cannot tell what's real and from what is imagined. A delusional disorder, a person cannot tell what is real from what is imagined. He's on there with Donald Trump, 45, a known racist, a known member or person who is connected with the Ku Klux Klan, right? He can't tell what is imagined from what is real. The main feature of this disease or delusional disorder is an unshakable belief in something that is untrue or not based on reality. So again, a delusional disorder, someone can't distinguish from what's real and what's imagined, and they have an unshakable belief in what is untrue and what is not based on reality. Delusions can be situations that actually occur in real life, but some of the side effects of it, or not side effects, or the symptoms is they believe they're being followed, they believe they're being poisoned, they believe they're being deceived, and they believe they're being conspired against, or they believe that they're being loved by someone from a distance. Delusions usually involve a misinterpretation or perceptions or experiences. Misinterpretations of perceptions or experiences. They have high exaggerations like aliens and things that can't be proven. And then that's what makes it into a delusion. Another thing with delusion, an example of delusion, which a lot of people don't want to admit, is delusion in religion. Delusion in religion. Y'all remember Jim Jones, where he took people who were highly educated and he gave them poison. I believe he killed like 900 people. Well, he didn't physically kill them, but they poisoned themselves, like 900 people. And look him up, a white man by the name of Jim Jones. It isn't like he was getting people who were uneducated, unaware. He took educated people, doctors, lawyers, highly educated and functional people who looked like they were normal, took them away and had them poison themselves. I think he even had them drink cyanide and he called it Jesus juice. This man was named Jim Jones. Look him up. He would be what you call delusional, but he looked functional. That's the key about this illness called delusion. He looked functional, but in fact, he was delusional. And you can go to others. What about the man with Waco, Texas? And he had the people die in the compound there. I forget his name, if anyone can send me his name. And I appreciate y'all helping, interacting with me. What was the man's name who had the people die in the compound there? Because sometimes I come off this with the top of my head because I want this to be authentic. And he had the people die in the compound there in Waco, Texas. I forget his name. And it was the same thing. Delusion in religion. delusion in religion. Our sister Janae said, what bothered me the most is that between black women and black men, they didn't think, and then I can't see the rest of your message, sis, because I won't want to touch the screen. But thanks for your, and Sister Samia said it's not well known fact that many times individuals considered to be genius and suffer from mental illness. Yeah, yes. So I believe he's suffering from a simple thing, not simple, but delusion. And remember, the symptom of delusional disorder is you can't separate from what's real and what's imagined. They think that they're being poisoned, conspired against, deceived, but they can be functional and delusional. And it's when you have a wide range of misinterpretations of perceptions, like believing in aliens, something that can't be proven. But here's the thing, just like bipolar, all of us are delusional. I'm going to say it again, and y'all might not like that. To a certain extent, all of us are delusional, because a lot of us, sometimes it could be things that no matter what, we believe it to be true. It's when you have unbelievable exaggeration in the truth that makes it a delusion. Just like bipolar. All of us are bipolar on some extent. Oh, no, I'm not. Oh, yes, you are. You want to know why? Because all of us have a range in emotions. I can talk to you this morning and say, hey, I'm going to just use my sister Jackie or Janae or anyone that's on. Hey, sister Janae or Jackie, how you feeling this morning? Oh, I'm feeling a little down. And by the end of the night, I check back with you. How you feeling? Oh, I'm feeling good. That was just a range in an emotions. What makes it a disorder, meaning bipolar, is when you have an extreme range in emotions, meaning I talk to you now. Hey, bro, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing okay. I'll be like, all right, I got to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back on the phone. I get back on the phone. You were just okay. Now you're crying a river. You went from one extreme to another in a short amount of time, and it continuously happens. This is what makes it bipolar and a disorder. But all of us on some level are bipolar because we have a range in emotions, and all of us on some level are delusional because we have our own perceptions of what truth is. So I'm not going to beat up on the brother. He made some good points in that interview. He talked about Larry Hoover. Now, someone will have to, okay, Jackie said, yes, thank you, Sister Jackie. Waco, David Koresh. Yes, that was him who, when I was talking about delusion in religion, yes, that was David Koresh. He said he was the second coming of Christ. You know how many people have said that? I can do a whole talk on people who said they were the second coming of Christ, who people said they were God themselves. They were delusional. Yes. I can't say I agree with everyone. I explain that, Sister Samia, what you mean when you said you can't agree with everyone. So with Kanye's visit to the White House, he made some good points. He said he talked about the release of Larry Hoover. Now, I'm not that well versed on Larry Hoover. I really didn't start learning about him until Rick Ross came out with that song. I think it was called I Apologize. And he talked about Larry Hoover. He kept saying Larry Hoover's name. I'm like, well, who's Larry Hoover? So I guess he's like a political prisoner. He talked about him. He made one good point at the end where he said, there's really no such thing as ADHD or ADD. He said the children are bored. Can we not agree with that? Can we not agree with that? He talked about police brutality. My thing is just his connection with Donald Trump and saying we got to take care of him. This man means us no good. He hardly means himself any good, more or less black and brown people. He has made it clear his feelings about black people. That's why so many of us are so offended, and it's so atrocious with his connection, because we know 45 means us no good. He's sending this country to hell. I even seen one political expert said they believe he's going to be reelected. Isn't that scary? Sister Samia, if you could give us a little more explanation, because I want to acknowledge everyone's comments, and I appreciate everyone's comments. Can you explain further, if you're still on, when you said I can't I can't say I agree with everyone. I don't know what you mean by that, because I want to acknowledge what you're saying. And thank you, Sister Jackie, for that comment about giving us the information about David Koresh. So he made some good points, but his association and his allegiance with Donald Trump is what is so egregious about even being there. Even Don Lemon said it was a minstrel show. A minstrel show. That's what Don Lemon said. And some people have considered that he needs a hand in his black card. So if you got Don Lemon saying that it was a minstrel show, but really what he did, he was only going along with the history of the White House. I have talked about this and I've shown this book before. Please look into getting this book. The Black History at the White House. Do you know the only way you could come into the White House back in the day was if you were doing a minstrel show? So really, he's just following along with the history. Look up this man. It's going to be hard to see it. I'm going to put it up real close on the screen. Blind Tom. Have you ever heard of him? He was one of the first people to be able to come into the White House unless you are a servant or a slave. I'm going to show his picture again. Look him up. Okay, just before I show, I know as a counselor and mental health illnesses are discussed a lot within your degree, but I feel like these, and I can't see the rest of it. So send another message with that, Samia, because I want to hear what you got to say. If I touch the screen, it might turn off the live, and I don't want to do that. Blind Tom, he's one of the first people allowed in the White House that was not a slave or a servant, but he was brought there for a minstrel show. This was in 1860, and he was a musical genius, and he was blind. That was really one of the only ways you could get into the White House other than being a slave or a servant. That's why I couldn't say that all of us suffer from bipolar or some mental illness. Okay, but again, sis, bipolar is an extreme shift in emotions. I'm saying that all of us at some point having a shift in emotions. Example is, I can talk to you this morning and you be happy, and I can talk to you a couple hours later, then you be sad. That's a shift in an emotion. All of us at some point have an unshakable belief in something, going to the delusion. So that's some form of delusion. Like we can have a sister and say, look, sis, this man is no good for you. He's been cheating on you. He's beating you. And you could come back and say, oh no, he's a good man. That's delusional. Especially when we have evidence that these things are true. All of us have had at some point in our life, I believe, some kind of a belief that seems delusional. Where it becomes a delusional disorder is when you can't have no proof in what you're saying is true. Like you say, well, aliens have came here. Okay, where's your proof in that? That's where it comes delusional. Or it was an earthquake yesterday and no one else saw it but you. That's where the delusional becomes a disorder. But at some point, some way, all of us are delusional, and some point, some way, all of us are somewhat bipolar. Where it becomes a disorder is the extreme or the exaggeration. That's what I mean by that. Normal emotions versus extreme shifts. Yes, that's where it becomes a delusional, a bipolar disorder. But all of us at some point are bipolar. We just don't want to admit it. It's in a shift in emotions. Where it becomes a disorder is when it's shrunk in time. I talked to you 5 minutes ago and you were fine. Then 5 minutes later, you're crying a river and can't explain it. And then the next day, and then the next day, that's when it becomes a disorder. But again, back to Blind Tom. The only way you could get in the White House was by being a minstrel show. This is the history, and look at the cover. This is a Easter egg hunt at the White House. This was as close as you could get into the White House back in the day. This is a black boy showing a white child around at an Easter egg hunt. That's as close as you could get to the White House back in the day. And the other night, I think it was called He Saw the Best of Me When Everyone Else Saw the Worst of Me. I did that talk. I talked about how the fiasco with Franklin Roosevelt inviting Booker T. Washington to the White House for what they called the supper in 1901. Man, there was so many people that gave Franklin Roosevelt hell about that. For another 30 years, no one was allowed in the White House. So what I'm saying is, Kanye West, that freak show, that minstrel, as Don Lemon called it, he's just going along with the history of the White House. It wasn't into the 1960s and 50s till black people were allowed in the White House, unless it was a minstrel show, unless you were a slave or a servant. It's in this book, The Black History of the White House by Clarence Lucene. So that fiasco that we saw, he was just going along with the history of the White House. Common was there, and they didn't put that on TV. Why? Because he was kicking knowledge. Jackie said Kanye, everyone knows, went left, and his mom passed, and I think a touch of depression. Samia said, when it affects your life or livelihood, then there may be an issue, but we all need to be given free, and I can't see the rest of it. I understand, sis, I understand. For him to say that he grew up in a fatherless house and him sitting with Donald made him feel like then I can't see the rest. Thank you, Sister Janae. Here's my thing, and send another message. Like I said, if I hit the screen, I don't know if it's going to mess up the live message. But I appreciate your opinion. It's respected. We don't have to agree. And just because we disagree, that don't mean there's a problem. It just means you have a different viewpoint on something, and disagreement brings about understanding. We got to get out of that. Just because we disagree on something, I'm not going to talk to you no more. I got a problem with you. No. Everyone's opinion and view is respected. Just because we disagree, that don't mean there's a problem. I don't make you a bad person, me a bad person. It means you have a different view, and we should be educating each other when we disagree. Man, salute to you, sisters. Salute to you, queens. Here's the point that I think was missed with this visit to the White House, that I think hardly no one, Sister Keela said emotions are normal, but shifts of extremities become disorders. Yes, especially when it's in denial. And then she says more about bipolar. Yes, that was my point. Here's my point that I think was missed. And remember, look up Blind Tom, a minstrel show at the White House. Here's what I think was missed with this whole fiasco with Kanye West. Give me a black fist sign, a heart emoji if you're learning and enjoying this message so far. A black fist sign, a heart emoji if you're learning from this, because I'll shut it down if we ain't learning. It ain't about me. It's about us learning from each other. So send me something to let me know that you're learning from this, and we build and learning from each other. Now, what I think was missed, thank you, Sister Jackie and others, what I think was missed with this is the normal and what we expect. If you was to go to a daycare, follow me on this. If you was to go to a daycare, would you think it's out of the ordinary to hear children crying? Follow me. If you was to go to a daycare with a bunch of adolescent and pubescent children, would you think it would be out the ordinary to hear children crying, screaming, and running around? That wouldn't be out the ordinary, would it? How about if you would go to a pig pen and you would see pigs being nasty and dirty, feces all over the place? Would you think that that's out the ordinary? Huh? How about if you would go to a concert? If you would go to a concert and you would see people jumping around, clapping and screaming, isn't that normal in those settings? Now, what would be abnormal is, say you would go to a daycare and you would see a bunch of adults there acting like children, screaming, hollering, and jumping around. That would raise a red flag. You'd be like, hold on. It's a grown man. That's a grown woman. Why are they acting that way? Or how about if you would go to a pig pen and you would see cats who are normally clean animals and they in a pig pen rolling around? That would raise a red flag, right? Right? Or let's say if you would go to a concert and everyone is just there chilling, not screaming, not hollering, not clapping. It's supposed to be a concert and everyone's quiet. That would raise a red flag. My point is, what we saw with the behavior of Kanye West, from him, especially the last couple years, that isn't out the ordinary. What was out the ordinary and what a lot of people and many people missed was that Negro sitting beside him. Come on, wake up, people. The Negro, and that is the trick of the devil. Who was there with him? Jim Brown. Do I gotta give you the history of Jim Brown? A Hall of Fame football player. He was in the civil rights movement back in the 60s with Muhammad Ali, may he rest in peace, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Russell, and many others. All you got to do is Google Jim Brown in the civil rights movement, and it'll be a famous picture of him at, I guess, a town hall meeting, and he was with our great ancestor Muhammad Ali, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, known, what was Kareem's name back then? I forget Kareem's name before he was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but you know what I'm talking about. Jim Brown was in the civil rights movement. Lou Alcindor. Jim Brown was in the civil rights movement. He's always, up until recently, has been outspoken, speaking up for black men, black boys, and the plight of black people in America. Again, he was in the civil rights movement. He's a Hall of Fame football player, only played 9 years, and he's considered one of the greatest football players of any position of his time, and known to be outspoken. I'm going to say it for a third time. He was in the civil rights movement with Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali never backed down. What has happened to this man that now all of a sudden he's pro-Republican and pro-Donald Trump, and he was sitting there participating in this minstrel show, as Don Lemon said, and no one said nothing? Everyone is jumping on Kayne West. We know for years now that this young man is disturbed. That's not abnormal behavior for him. No more than it's not abnormal behavior to go to a daycare and see children crying. No more than it's not abnormal behavior to go to a pig pen and see pigs rolling around in mud. No more than it's not abnormal behavior to go to a concert and hear people clapping and screaming and hollering. Yeah, and who was the female there? I don't know. But for Jim Brown to be on the face of the civil rights movement back in the 60s, one of the most tumultuous times in our sojourn here in America, and now he's pro-Donald Trump, and he was sitting there going along with this minstrel show, and no one said nothing? Our sister Rachel said, I felt a certain way about his visit. Then I can read this article, and it talked about how he asked Trump, and then your message cuts off. Please send another message because I can't touch the screen. What about Jim Brown? What about him? Why is everyone letting him off the hook? Samia says prior to Kennedy King, the African Americans were predominantly Republican. Jim Brown is from that time. But what about him speaking up against civil rights? And now he's pro-Trump. And he's going along with this minstrel show. This minstrel show. He's supposed to be an elder. He's supposed to be guiding us, speaking up for us, no matter what political party he stood up for. Because the truth of the matter is, no matter whether you claim Democrat or Republican, whatever is good for black people, we're last. And whatever is good for us, whatever is good for black people, we're last. And whatever's bad is for us, we're first. No pro-Trump, if I don't understand. Right. What about Jim Brown? Sitting there going along with this minstrel show. And who was that sister sitting there? This was staged, just like the event where he said slavery was a choice, was staged. That was staged. As soon as he did that interview back in May, if you remember. That interview with it, that wasn't supposed to be the topic of that interview. I'm going back to May now when he said slavery was a choice. That wasn't supposed to be the topic of the interview. Within 2-3 minutes of that interview, he started talking about slavery was a choice, which tells me it was staged to get views, just like this was staged. Sister Akila said we were Democrats from 50 to 60s up in the present, and it started becoming the Obama era. Yeah, no matter what we have claimed, we're suffering. What does it matter whether we call ourselves Democrat or Republican? Black people's plight is the same. And when Obama was in office, our plight was the same. So I'm not I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying, someone proved to me, no matter what we claim as a political party, that our situation has changed. Hell, we had a black man in office claiming Democrat, and more black men, women, and children were killed by the police than any time in history, almost. Any time in history. It got worse. And all the man said was, well, if I had a son, he looked like Trayvon. No, duh. Your wife is black and you're black. But what did you do about it, sir? What did you do? Not one time did he say anything, really, that called out the police for what they were, which were terrorists and murderers. But when you had the situation in Baltimore, where our sister Akilah is, he called them thugs. I'm talking about Obama now. He called them thugs, but not one time did he call the police who killed Eric Gardner, Sandra Bland, Tamir Rice, who was a child. He didn't call them child killers. He didn't call them terrorists and murderers. Not one time do I recall. So no matter what we have claimed as a political party, black people have gotten the worst of the worst in treatment. So what about Jim Brown? An elder, 82 years old. He sat there going along with this menstrual show, and everyone jumped on Kanye, which I understand your disgust in his menstrual show, sitting there talking about we got to make our he's not my president, make him look good, and the other buffooning and clowning that he was doing. But what about Jim Brown? So they're going to continue to find those who can sell out, people like Charles Barkley, and try to make them be the face of our voice, try to make them our voice. And I believe they're going to try to give Kanye West some kind of political position. Did you hear what he said? Someone in the audience said, wow, what do you think, Mr. Trump? He sounds like he knows his stuff. He said, yeah, he may be able to run for president one day. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Someone in the audience, it might have been the news, or it might have been that black woman. I don't want to misquote. They said, hey, Mr. President, what do you think about Kanye? He's really dropping it. He said, yeah, he may be able to run for a political office or president one day. That's going to be their next move. So it's twofold, in my humble opinion and perspective. Number one, I didn't hear no one, hardly anyone, making Jim Brown responsible or even shining light on his buffooning and clowning. Rachel said Kanye isn't getting the black vote, so if that's the plan, they better get another one. I don't know. I don't know, Sister Rachel. I don't know. But Sister Rachel, did you hear what they said? They always drop subliminal messages. Someone said, what do you think, Mr. President? He said, oh, he's dropping it. I think he could run for office or president one day. I'm not saying he's going to run for president, but it could be something damn close. That's one plan. The other plan is putting people who have sold their soul and have sold out black people. Jim Brown has sold out black people. Google the picture with him, Muhammad Ali, Bill Russell, at the time Lou Alcindor, as we know as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He was right there. He stood up for us, and now he's pro-Trump, and he's there with this menstrual show, and hardly no one said nothing. Everyone jumped on Kanye West, the illusion or the pawn, but no one said nothing about Jim Brown. So now I believe they're going to find others who have sold their soul to say, look, this is okay. Racism is okay. And God forbid if Trump gets back in office again, that is a possibility. Like Ric Flair used to say, to be the man, you got to beat the man. Now, he's the one in office. Someone has to beat him. Someone has to get more votes than him. It is very possible he could get back in and get more people. They already had, have y'all forgotten about Ben Carson? People used to look up to him, and he has sold out. So who else are they preparing? preparing for this cycle of psychological warfare to put in office who once stood up for us, but now has flipped a new coin to further miseducate and mislead and misdirect black people. Yes, our brother Alafia with Alafia's teaching group, we had a group yesterday just about the misdirection of information in the media. Yes, good point. Sold out like Jesse and Sharpton, our sister Akila said. So that's the point that I wanted to make. Everyone is jumping on Kanye, but we had an 82-year-old man there, an elder who stood up in the civil rights era during the worst tumultuous time for our people in the face of oppression. We didn't have Facebook then. We didn't have Twitter then. We didn't have $1 million sneaker deals then. Those brothers who stood up at that time, now, man, they put it all on the line, man. Y'all are the real MVPs. Bill Russell and our great ancestor, Muhammad Ali, Lou Alcindor, as we know as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. They really put it on the line. And Jim Brown, we respected Jim Brown. How he get from there to now? He was there a couple days ago at the White House selling out, buffooning and clowning. And no one said nothing. They all jumped on Kanye for normal behavior. For him, that was normal behavior. But it wasn't normal behavior to see someone who stood up in the civil rights era. And now you go from that. That wasn't that long ago when you talk about time. Our parents lived through that. They lived through segregation where you couldn't drink at the same water fountain as a white person. Where you could literally be lynched, sprayed with hoses, and dogs sicked on you. Black voters began supporting the Democratic Party in the greater numbers almost a century ago. And then I can't see the rest. Okay. But where has it gotten us? That's my point. No matter what you call yourself, where has claiming Democrat or Republican gotten, and I ain't talking about a few black people like Bill Cosby or Oprah. I'm talking about all of us. Where has, no matter what you call yourself, Democrat or Republican, where has it gotten black people as a whole? Where has it gotten us? That is why, and I'm not telling people not to vote. I'm registered to vote. I am registered to vote. But I'm not telling people whether to vote or not to vote. And I'm not condemning someone for voting or not voting. That's not my place to do that. But what I can say with certainty and with facts is, no matter what we have claimed, it has not helped black people. Yeah, he was supporting it. Stanley, quick. He was supporting it, quick. I seen my boy Prop come on. Before the Hour of Power has come on tonight, have you seen anyone talk about Jim Brown's complicity in that minstrel show until tonight? Have you seen anyone talk about the complicity of Jim Brown, an elder, an 82-year-old elder who has supposedly stood up for black people in a most tumultuous time? Have you seen anyone point that out? That's why I wanted to do this live tonight. He totally got off the hook. Jim Brown was fronting like Jesse and Sharpton. He's totally sold out. Yes. That is what got me, and anyone who missed the beginning, because I'm about to end out, anyone who missed the beginning, I want you to think, because the Hour of Power gives logical analogies to make you think. It is not abnormal to go into a daycare and see children crying or laughing or playing. It is not abnormal to go to a pig pen and see pigs being nasty. It is not abnormal to go to a concert and see people screaming and hollering and hear music. That's not abnormal. I'm linking that to Kanye West. His behavior going off the last couple years, especially since the loss of his mother, and he lost his mind, and the Hour of Power has diagnosed him with a delusional disorder. That is not abnormal behavior. What was abnormal, or most of us have missed, was seeing an 82-year-old elder who stood up with a lot to lose during the most tumultuous time of our time here in America, one of the most tumultuous times, in the 60s, a man was right there with Muhammad Ali, Lew Alcindor, as we know as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Russell, and many others, now taking sides and promoting a Republican and Donald Trump, one of the worst presidents that even white people say he's the worst. And you sitting there with him, and this young man who's young enough to almost be your grandson, who has obviously lost his way, and you're not steering him. What are you getting out of this, sir? Where are you getting out of this? Our sister Hope Mincer said, I haven't heard anyone mention his name. This is what the Hour of Power does. I'm not bragging because I have a lot of backing. But that's why I wanted to do this live. Not to beat up on Kanye West. He's being used as a pawn and he's mentally ill. And they're going to continue to promote him in politics. Go back on the interview. I watched it. It was 23 minutes and 52 seconds long. At least that's what they put on YouTube. And at the end, they said, what do you think, Mr. Trump? He said, oh, yeah, man, he's off the hook. He's very knowledgeable. I think he can have a political position. Watch out. Watch out. And they're going to use more people like Jim Brown, who was possibly from the civil rights era. Do you see how he chastised John Lewis? He's been doing this. They're going to use more people like him to make it seem like racism ain't really racism, and to cover up racism, and to lullaby us to sleep. That was the most despicable thing in that minstrel show, as Don Lemon called it. Not Kanye West. Not Kanye West. What Kanye West did was normal behavior for him. Just like the pig pen. Just like the analogy with the concert. Just like the analogy with the daycare. If you see something in a setting that's normal behavior, why would you look at abnormal? What makes it abnormal is a behavior or a setting that you're not used to seeing. You shouldn't see cats who are clean at a pig pen. You shouldn't go to a concert and it be quiet there and no music playing. Right? That's abnormal behavior. What was abnormal was an elder like Jim Brown, who supposedly supposed to fight for us and stand up for us. And he sat there going along with the minstrel show and the buffooning and clowning, which is the history at the White House. The black history at the White House. The only people that were allowed in the White House other than slaves and servants were minstrel shows. Look up Blind Tom, who is a musical genius. These were typically the only people that were allowed in the White House. Look at this. An Easter egg hunt. That's as far as black people could get. Look at this black boy escorting a white child at an Easter egg hunt, 1900, and you see the White House there. That's as far as we could get, other than being a slave and a servant. And when Theodore Roosevelt tried to bring an educated black man there, named Booker T. Washington, and again, I have to back up on that. It wasn't called the White House. It was called the President's House. It was called the President's House. And after the fiasco with bringing Booker T. Washington there in 1901, invited there for dinner by Theodore Roosevelt, he got so much flack from senators, congressmen, and on and on and on. October the 16th, 1901, Theodore Roosevelt made an official statement. Then he called the President's House the White House. That is how what we know now is the White House got its name. Again, it used to be called the President's House. But after he brought a black man there, meaning Theodore Roosevelt, he brought Booker T there, Booker T. Washington, one of our ancestors, and he got so much flack for that. That is how, on October the 16th, 1901, you can look it up, that's how this place got its name, the White House. And the significance of that is, he said, his statement was, never again will this great house be considered anything but for white people. The author of the book is Clarence Lucene, right there. Clarence Lucene, the Black history in the White House, it will tell you how it used to be called the President's House and how that fiasco in 1901 with Theodore Roosevelt inviting Booker T. Washington, he got so much flack. One senator from Mississippi said, this is the most damnable act in the history of America. And now the White House, it smells of rats because a nigger was there. That's what this author said about Theodore Roosevelt inviting Booker T there. And that is how that house, which used to be called the President's House or the President's Residence, got the White House. And the significance of that is this house will always be known for white people. The White House. Did they tell you that in history class? That's how the White House got its name? So the minstrel show that we saw the other day with the leading candidate in character, Jim Brown, and then his backup act, Kayne West, they just following the history of the White House with minstrel shows. Don't jump on Kanye. He's mentally ill. He's still a damn buffoon and clown, but he's mentally ill. What's Jim Brown's excuse? And what's their intent? They just don't do things like this for nothing. They don't do things like this for nothing. You will see, I believe, Kanye get political power or a political position. May not the president. And you will see they will try to find people that was in the civil rights movement or we respect as someone who stand up for us and pull them in the ranks with those like Donald Trump. Yeah. He may get elected. We have to pull together. It don't matter who the hell is in office. A Democrat or Republican, it means nothing for the advancement of black people because we've been voting Democrats since the civil rights movement. And what has it done? Nothing. Murder and bloodshed. Ask Trayvon Martin's family, ask Sandra Bland's family, and Eric Garner's family, and many others, known and unknown. A Democrat, a black man was in office, and these atrocities happened right before our eyes. If you're here in the York area, October the 20th, we will take our historic trip to the Blacks in Wax Museum. We'll leave from Penn Park at 11 a.m. If you have the means, please donate so I can take more children and more adults. It's open to the community. October the 20th, Saturday at 11 a.m., we're going to the Blacks in Wax Museum. If you can't make it to that, at 5 p.m. at St. Matt's Church, they'll have a no bullying seminar with Sister Tanya, Brother Anu, Brother Fred, and the movement, and Brother Ray. We about unity. Like the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. For you ladies, the Apple a Day book and Walking in My Identity, I support anything and anyone that's going to help our people, even if I don't get along with you. I'm not saying I don't get along with anyone, but I'm going along with the teaching of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. We all are not going to get along. I know what our brother said, Rodney King. Can't we all just get along? No, we all can't just get along. But that don't mean we can't work together. To work together means you got to have a certain amount of humility in your heart to promote someone or something else that's going to help our people, even though you may not see eye to eye with that person. Humility. Humble yourself. And I need to humble myself for the advancement of our people. Our children and our future is depending on it. All right? So if you can, please attend this historic trip. And thank you to those who have donated. Sister Marissa, Sister Rhonda with Make Me Over, Sister Marissa with Yaya Girls, Brother Jermaine with 0 to 100 Bike Club, Sister Ophelia Chambers, she donated, and Sister April donating food. And she said, Brother Shareef, I'm not giving you any sandwiches. I'm sending real food. Real food. And one last thing about how gracious and how God is. I named people. Are y'all all right? Give me about 5 more minutes, if that. Let me know you're all right. I'm over an hour now. I usually don't do that. Let me show you how gracious God is. Give me about 3 minutes. I named people who already donated, right? I named people who already donated, right? Sister April with the Cornbread West, she said what she's going to do by donating some food. So she hasn't done it yet. Something can happen where she can't do it. But how God works, how we're taught in Islam, how God works is, as long as her heart is in the right place, let's say something pops up and Sister April gets sick and she can't deliver the food that she said she was going to deliver. Do you think that God isn't going to bless her for where her heart is? So we're taught in Islam, as long as your heart is in the right place and you're sincere, you can get blessings for things you actually don't do. See how gracious God is? You can get blessings for things you actually don't do. So as long as her heart is in the right place, which I think it is, else I wouldn't have mentioned her name, even if she don't supply one drop of juice, one crumb of bread, as long as her heart is in the right place, she will get blessed as if she fed the multitudes. That's how gracious God is. So if you tell someone, I'm going to meet you at your house on Saturday to paint your house. I'm going to help you paint your house. And something pops up, you got a flat in your car, on your tire, or you were sick and you couldn't make it, God will bless you as if you painted the whole house because you were sincere and it was your intention to do it, but something popped up that you couldn't do it, but your heart was in the right place. So thank you to all those who have contributed. Thank you. And thank you to those who want to contribute, but something prohibited you or was an obstacle from you to contributing, but your heart was in the right place. You're getting blessings too. And April, who I believe her heart is in the right place, she's already been blessed for wanting to supply food for the Hour of Power, the Black Love Movement, and these children who a lot of them don't get to see no further than Penn Park and as far as McKinley. I leave you in peace as I came. Assalamu alaikum.